Oh, hello and welcome to Political Voice. I'm Moses Humphrey. Now, first, let's serve you a roundup of the latest political news from around the world. Kevin McCarthy has been toppled in a right-wing revote for the first time ever that a U.S. House of Representatives Speaker has lost a no-confidence vote. The final tally was 216-210, that's a 216 to 2010 to remove the congressman as leader of the Republican majority in the lower chamber of Congress. Now, hardliners in his party voted against him after he struck a deal with Senate Democrats to fund government agencies. Bad time for McCarthy there. Now, there is no clear successor to oversee the House Republican majority, while Congress has just over 40 days to agree on a deal to avoid another potential government shutdown. Well, moving on, North Korea on Wednesday dismissed the Pentagon report describing Pyongyang as a persistent threat, saying the world's biggest threat of weapons of mass destruction comes from the U.S. Pyongyang criticized the U.S. for revealing what he described as its dangerous intention for aggression to threaten the North and seize global military hegemony. Now, during a crucial parliamentary meeting attended last week by leader Kim Jong-un, North Korea included provision in its constitution to bolster its nuclear capabilities. The move came a year after it passed a new law allowing the preemptive use of nuclear weapons and declared its status as a nuclear state. Irreversible. Now, that'll be it for the roundup. Now we move on into the topic for today. The House of Representatives has called for enhanced community policing to fight insecurity in the country. At Tuesday's plenary, the lawmakers said their constituents should be armed under the supervision of security agencies to fight bandits wreaking havoc in many parts of the country. The resolution was passed following the adoption of a motion of urgent public importance moved by legislators from the Northwest. Now, leading the debate on a motion, Kabiru Mai Palace, a member of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, from Zamfara, said the Northwest has been overrun by bandits and other criminals. The lawmaker was quoted as saying more than 126 individuals had been abducted, including 33 children, and tragically, more than 53 lives lost in the past 3 months in his constituency alone. Among the prayers, he urged the House to demand that the federal government direct the relocation of the defense headquarters to the Northwest until insecurity is addressed. Contributing to the motion, Abdullahi Balarabi, an All Progressives Congress lawmaker from Sokoto, proposed an amendment of the motion that will allow Nigerians to be armed with the supervision of security agencies to fight banditry. The motion was adopted when it was put to a voice vote by Ben Kalu, the Deputy Speaker who presided over plenary. The House mandated the committees on defense, police, and national security and intelligence to ensure compliance. Oh well. That's where we'll focus on. That's what we'll focus on this morning on the Political Voice. I have a VOP in-house analyst with me in the studio, and together we'll make sense of it all. So I say welcome to the show, Cyril Abaku.
My pleasure, Moses.
Now, so Nigerians, insecurity has gotten to a stage where now lawmakers are talking about Nigerians having to own weapons to protect themselves. This is not the first time such suggestions are coming to the fore. But I would say this is the first time we see lawmakers tinkering with the idea. First of all, let's have an overview of insecurity in the past few months. We know that last year, the last administration recorded, huge numbers of, people dying due to insecurity. This current administration, in just a few months, the numbers are getting into their thousands. Serial.
Yeah, so I think in a way, we haven't made progress as we ought to make. And insecurity is not first of all fought with guns and bullets and boots, or even armored tanks. Before the person who fired the first shot fired it, he thought about firing it. The question is, why did he fire the shots? Why are we insecure? What's the root cause of it? Insecurity is a symptom of something. It's not the problem in itself, it's a symptom. Corruption is also a symptom of something else. So I'm beginning to think that whereas I welcome what the lawmakers are saying, to any attempt to treat insecurity as a singularly distinct problem will not bring the solution. Yes, because we have to now go to the root of the matter. Why are we insecure? Why does it carry the name of banditry and terrorism in the Northwest? Carries the name of militancy, kidnapping in the Southeast. Then in the Southeast, it's even worse. You have IPOB, they want to separate, as it were.
You have ESN.
ESN. Then...
And then there's another one, BR something.
Then it suddenly came to the Southwest, the most unlikely of places. Now, no matter how anybody wants to explain that to me, the fact is, at a time, somebody felt sufficiently aggrieved and took up arms against the state in the Southwest by the name of Sunday Igboho. If you even see the manner in which the DSS, tried to arrest him at a point, I think they even said that they saw a cat and shot it also, thinking it was that. No, they arrested the cat, believing that it was changed, it would transmit into a human being and all that jazz. So there's a fundamental problem that we're not dealing with. But let me wrap my answer to the first question with this. Insecurity there is the economics of it as a causative agent. There is the politics of it as a causative agent. There is the social part of it that is a problem. Perhaps there's also the religious side of it that is a problem. So we need to pick these issues and thoroughly assess them, thoroughly investigate and probe and question them, interrogate them and find out where we missed our way and why insecurity has become the consequence of missing our way. I think that's the only time we can think of a solution that will be originating from ground up, and that may be the lasting solution to insecurity in our country.
All right, now there's also the need for the call for succession. The word is making me bite my tongue. There's the call for that, and that in itself seems to have heightened insecurity in some parts of the
succession.
People wanting to separate, like what we have
okay.
Yes, that's secession, right?
Yeah. Secession, yeah.
Yes, that's the word.
Okay.
Okay. What can government do differently to address that? Because we have seen now that in itself has a heightened insecurity in some parts of the country.
So first of all, our laws in Nigeria do not particularly oppose private citizens owning firearms. Hunters have firearms, okay? Certain categories of persons have firearms. It's not as if the law is to. Self-defense is the first principle of nature. But now, Rep member, is it Palace? Or is Palace, I don't know, Palace making a case for his constituents in Zamfara, where people have died in the past few months, and, the Zamfara case is a bit complicated. But even if we were to pass that law now, if it will work in Zamfara, I don't think that is the same kind of law you want to, that solution will work for those in the Southeast. Moses, I'm not so sure that given the tone and tenor of what you say in the Southeast, each individual owning firearms may not be the solution to it. Otherwise, you may turn the whole region into a conflagration, because as far as I see what's going on in the Southeast, it's not an organic problem. It looks to me like a purely manufactured, man-made man-orchestrated, man-designed, and man-established crisis. How do you deal with that? Now, in the Southeast, the cry for secession, much as I personally feel that we should remain as one country, as Nigeria, okay, which I believe is the way God we gain independence as Nigeria, and I think God has a plan for Nigeria. That's a personal opinion. But the cry for secession. Let's look at what happened in England, in the UK, our parent country. Mm-hmm. When Scotland said they wanted to leave the United Kingdom, they were given a chance to have a referendum. It failed. The same thing didn't happen in Spain with Catalonia. And the whole of, in fact, I think the BBC referred to them as the shame of Europe. Or was it CNN referred to them as the shame of Europe? Now, the point is this. If we have the eastern, western, and southern, and northern parts of the country, or let me even use this example, it's like in a business partnership. Mm-hmm. Three persons have come together, pooled their resources, invested money in a business venture, and it's going well. All right? After one party could think, guys, we've made some profit over 10 years, and I think that together we've achieved so much, but if I went alone, I think I would achieve even more. That's a possibility. The person should have the freedom, liberty to pull out and do greater things, if that's how the person feels. The person can also say, I have worked with you, and I haven't got fair treatment, and as a result, I want out. Mm-hmm. On those two grounds, the person has the freedom, the liberty to say the person wants out. In the Nigerian situation, whether we want to love the Southeast or not, or the North or not, or the West or not, you need to understand that whenever people Nigeria has this funny psychology. Whenever any people feel aggrieved is when they believe that they have a right to say they walk away. During the Jonathan Peace Conference, National Conference of 2014, I remember was it the Lamini Vadama saying that he will break away with his people to go to Cameroon. Okay, it was plain. Before now, what used to be the old Eastern region? The old Eastern region is comprised parts of Cameroon that used to be that before now it was the not just Bakassi. Deep into southern Cameroon was part of Nigeria, a large portion of it, because Azikwe's party used to be a national council of Nigeria and the Cameroons. In 1961-62, there was a referendum, and those guys opted to go to join Cameroon, and instead of staying in Nigeria. The name of the party was now changed from National Council of Nigerian Cities to National Council of Nigerian Citizens. Yes, that was how the name of the party went from NCNC to still NCNC. But those people that were in Cameroon, not Bakassi, but people that were in Cameroon, now left and joined Cameroon, and then so it means that Nigeria has a history of people saying we are tired, we're fed up, we want to move. Now the problem is that in the Southeast, there's the cry of marginalization. In the Southwest, there's the same cry. In the Northeast, there's the same cry. In the South-South, there's the same cry. In the Northwest, there's the same cry. In the North-Central, there's the same cry. These cries are now manifesting in what we call insecurity. Shouldn't we
take a listen to what people
are saying? And Moses, people won't tell you these things. The average Joe political enclave in this country has a national flag, has a national anthem, has currency prototypes printed. Can security people in Nigeria lie that they're not aware of this? Sometimes on social media we've seen these things come out. They've written anthems, they've printed flags. So at the core of the Nigerian problem are fundamental questions of statehood. Who are we as a people and where are we going? Nobody has an answer to that. Until you want to address what we call the national question, Nigeria is built on serious injustice. Nobody, you can't jettison that. Our leaders are becoming less and less nationalistic. There are fewer and fewer pan-Nigerian thinkers. Now, let me wrap this question with this. What the Deputy Speaker presided over plenary yesterday, and somebody said, we need to empower people with guns because in his own constituency, people have died and are still dying. when somebody says that sort of thing, and the next thing we want to do is empower people with guns, let me ask, how many of our leaders have ever sat down to imagine the sort of country they want Nigeria to be?
Okay, now we'll come back to that. I was hoping we'll leave that for the latter part of the show.
Okay.
Let's still get the feel of what has brought us to that stage where we are now talking about empowering people with guns so that they can defend themselves. We'll come to whether or not the authorized body that should protect lives and property has failed for people to now say, okay, let us now defend ourselves. For it to get to the Senate where it has gotten to now. We'll come back to that. But, in building some of these things, the reasons why this might be coming up, you did say that you pointed to what is going on in the Southeast as, the ideology that it could be imported to that part of the country because they are generally not known to be people who are violent in nature. They are more concerned about making money.
Yeah.
But here we are. We have seen certain individuals, non-state actors, perpetrating chaos in that part of the country. And, one would wonder if you are saying you want liberty or liberalization from the state, the Nigerian state, why are you killing your own people to achieve that? Are you trying to force them to support you? That's another conversation entirely. But now, let's look at what has been a perception in the past few years. The fact that the North has been perceived as a parasite. Milking from, other parts of Nigeria, and that being one of the reasons why they want politicians that have come out from the North want Nigeria to stay as one, while the Southeast, the South, have been clamoring for a taste of power, and especially the Southeast now, and that has not been, and they have not been given a fair ground to achieve that. What do you say to that, please?
It's part of this content. There was a writer some years back who, I don't know if it was being mischievous, but he did say that for all of the regions that have accessed power at the center have had to be backed by militia forces. Jonathan, when Yar'Adua was sick, there was a threat about the fact that he couldn't succeed Yar'Adua because it was a turn of the North, and maybe some persons felt superiority complex to say, who is this nobody to now suddenly become president? The vice presidency, as with deputy governorship, are often people who are just there as spare tires, people normally say, just be there, don't do anything. I've said before here that there was a deputy governor who could not sign more than 50,000 naira. That was the threshold his governor gave him. He couldn't sign any check for 50,000. So that was, but so I think somehow they had to factor in the fact that his boss as president had just quelled militancy with amnesty. And so in order not to resurrect the monster of militants who will start bombing pipelines and bombing oil wells and bombing all these things, which is the means of the Nigerian economy, why don't you let their son become president? In any case, the Southern minorities have never tasted power, so why don't give it to them? That was part of the argument. But you see, at the back of it was the fact that they feared the consequence of not.
Okay.
President Tinubu cannot be said to be of course, Jonathan wasn't the brain behind militancy, but President Tinubu couldn't. I can't put it in the same way to think that President Tinubu was directly a benefactor of what Oseni Igboho did. But in a way, you can look at the fact that in the background, he was going to run for president, and somehow, even in the presidency, when it looked as if some person wanted to demystify, now President Tinubu wanted to demystify him, I believe they would have somehow thought of it and said, look,
what if this happens?
What if this happens? Already we've seen a manifestation. We can't risk having this sort of thing because, of course, he is today, I mean, even before he became president, he was the most visible political figure from the Southwest. So you risk, so that perhaps also came into the reckoning, to the calculation. Somehow, in The Guardian, I'm trying to set the stage for something. In The Guardian in 2000, when Sharia crisis broke out in Kaduna, Zamfara, and all this, and even Yobe, in the north, there was a DSS report which the Guardian newspaper quoted in one of their national their stories. They said that whenever a Southerner becomes president, that some elements up north would create instability, and that this was why Sharia was. It was a report by the SSS which the Guardian was quoting. So those are not my thoughts. It's what the Guardian was quoting. And so it is now sort of evident that violence has its uses. Let's ask ourselves. You see, because I'm coming to the I'm insecurity.
That brings me to a question I was going to ask, but I don't want to interfere with your line of thoughts. But if you can find a way to merge it as you make sure to respond, doesn't that mean, like some pundits have said, that the Easterner has no nuisance value?
No, that's where I'm going. The writer I quoted him at the Nigerians, I think. The writer said that the South has done the right thing.
Okay.
Has
done the right thing.
So was it Vanguard or Punch? He said that they've done the right thing by having this nuisance, this thing that is going on, because it could become handy in being a bargaining chip in future. That's what the writer said. You see, the political scientist does not come across as a moral judge. His work, or the analyst, his work should be to objectively look at what is going on and tell you if it happened with 1, happened with 2, and happened with 3, it is likely to happen with 4.
Okay.
Do I like violence? God forbid. Do I want insecurity? But ask yourself this question, Moses. Before we go on to arming individuals, why are the rebels not urgently considering amending the constitution to guarantee state police? The governor is the chief security officer of the state. Yet he has no powers over policing. All right? Again, in order not to make the matter look too complex, am I for state police? I will neither say yes, no, because that's not what we're discussing today. But I thought that all of the people who talk and think about fiscal federalism, devolution of powers, in remaking Nigeria, the argument they always put up is derivation, resource control, state police, and now the progressive reps are not talking about
state police.
Nobody's talking about that. Why? Because the governor of Zamfara, where that man comes from now, will be waiting for the IG of police to deploy people to the state, and they can't control where they go and where they don't go. So assuming a political enemy was the one creating that chaos in your state, the police may be directed to go elsewhere.
Okay.
So you cannot pick insecurity as a singularly distinct issue, overlooking the economic side of it, overlooking the political side of it, overlooking the psychology of its manifestation, and hoping that by just granting people licenses to own guns, the matter will go away.
Okay, now we're still, let's just stay on the nuisance value thing for a while. Staying on it now, you know that, like you said, the Southwest may have rode on, the Sunday Igboho, may have, yeah. All right, but they probably had something to bargain with. We know that Niger Delta, the militants that sprung up at the time that they did, had something to bargain with. The national wealth, destroying the pipelines, holding the nation to ransom by saying, look, you're not going to mine what we have. Those causing mayhem in the north, they have something to bargain with as well. But if Easterners decide to have the nuisance value, would they have something to bargain with, really?
Well,
nothing.
Okay,
I'm asking the question, and then I'm also I'll allow you to respond.
But the thing is, I have to say it again. I'm not in any way giving
Of course, nobody is.
endorsement
Yes,
for
that's not what
yes,
that's not what we're doing
for
here.
nuisance. But how the times have changed, how this is what we're now discussing about our dear country. It's unthinkable.
Okay.
But the fact is that the way and manner in which other parts of Nigeria are monolithically organized, the Southeast is not so much like that. They are not as monolithically organized or hegemonically constituted, arranged. So it may be a different ballgame. In fact, in the Southeast, you cannot point to a center. You can't point to say this is the person to talk to or deal with when you're talking about.
Now, has that affected the politicians from the Southeast tendering their case at the center?
Well, so let's look at it. We had Ojo Zakalo run for Senate President. In fact, all the senators from Southeast, I think, were running for Senate President at the time. They didn't get it, and I thought they didn't play their politics well. Okay, nobody goes to say, look, what's going to Southeast can go away if you make me Senate President, if you make me President. Nobody can come out and say that. Neither has anybody come out to say, but, and the people who are shouting, the ES and the IPOB and all these people, none of them is making the Nigerian presidency a case. Now, does anybody want to come out and galvanize them and say, what you're doing can be used for better purposes, supporting for, that sort of thing, is also not likely going to work. But then, thirdly, will a president of Eastern Nigeria extraction automatically mean that IPOB and others will go away? I scarce think so. Let me give an example. Those guys that were arrested, they were conveying, is it arms and ammunition to Izonicha or I don't know if you remember the story. Ghanaian driver.
Okay, yes, I remember that one.
Now, where is that story today?
Well, when you ask like that, the onus would be on the media.
But I mean, the media, because the media is the conscience of society. The police don't have a conscience. Government has lost its thinking cap. Where is that story today? Even the media can only ask. Is that not so? We can only keep asking the question, but where is that story today? The driver was arrested, I think the Ghanaian name also,
yes.
And where is that story today? And who was sending those heavy ammunition or whatever to the Southeast? How did they cross into Nigeria? And we're heading for the Southeast. As I told that the Southeast problem is imported. The question again is, those who are sending
I think they were said to have taken off from Lagos ports.
Good.
So one would wonder, how did I even get into the country? How did I go past all the customs checks and all of that?
Meanwhile, if you import wristwatches or as little as earrings into Nigeria, you are at your own is at your own peril. They will check. In fact, they check harassingly. Meanwhile, the one that they should have seen, nobody saw it. Now, Moses, but let's come back to the matter at hand. The question again is, the people who are exporting this insecurity to the Southeast, what are they shopping for? What are they looking for there? So at least if we know, we can now begin to tailor it into what it is. Because, you see, that's what I said, it happened in 1, happened in 2, happened in 3. Only create a likelihood, not certainty. Good. So, but the question is, why is this the conclusion the rest members have come to? And it's not today we began to see them say, rest pass the motion. That's what they do, pass the motion. How far can you travel? How far can you travel? This is security. First, and they didn't even say anything about someone in the IG of police or someone in anybody. They've just gone to say, motion passed, the matter should now go into...
Okay, now, weapons. We have, let's look at what is going on in the Western world, where gun laws allows, if you can prove that you're of mental state and you can, defend it, you can buy a gun. It has gotten so bad that people even buy guns off the counter in some parts of the Western world. And we have seen what that has transited to. Yesterday, I heard, I'm trying to remember the place now. Thailand, where a 14-year-old entered a store and opened fire, Do you think with road rage Let's even leave insecurity. With road rage
in Lagos, for example,
in a place like Lagos, do you think Nigeria is ripe for individuals owning weapons? Albeit, the idea is to defend themselves against insurgents.
It's a tough question, Moses. Tough question. I have to say, first of all, that the level of insecurity in Nigeria is high. I mean, even in Lagos, a couple of weeks ago, we saw where people just dressed in military uniform. In the night of driving, they stop you, but 3 or 4 of them stop you, stop the person, kill the person, take the car, take whatever they want to take and go away. A senator's aide was killed.
And you will stop because they are dressed in uniform.
Because they're dressed in uniform.
And if you don't stop, we've seen the police shoot people and kill them because they asked them to stop and they didn't stop. In broad daylight.
Now, let me ask. How have you ever seen on either national TV, radio, or even on social media where Nigerians are taught basic steps to self-defense? In light of what is happening in the country everywhere, have you seen anywhere where there's a you know, the way during political season you have campaigns, people writing all sorts of things, paid propaganda writers are writing in defense of their principles on Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp, everywhere. Do you see any such meltdown, any such doubling down of messages on self-defense? How to brace yourself against attackers? Armed robbery is on the rise, you know, kidnapping is on the rise. How to spot, if you are walking in the night on a street where there are not many people, what distance should you give between you and the next person? You know, this sort of things. I have not seen it. I think that somehow the authorities are not sufficiently conscientized to the reality of the problems we face. That's the first thing. Number 2, road rage, yes, but I think what we're seeing in the West, America particularly, is supposed to be, in my view, is actually what's the word when something is the depression.
Climax. Okay.
No, is the anticlimax, is the denouement, you know, is the depression. It has gone from, you know, to the climax, and then it's coming down. So it's like the end of it is the law of diminishing return, sort of, in the manner of speaking, for gun laws, for gun control. Because, of course, you cannot have a civilization in which people are not able to defend themselves against aggressors. The police may not always come early. In Nigeria, police, you call police, they don't have fuel in their van. They don't have fuel in their van. Can I ask, is there a police hotline in Nigeria?
Yes, there are actually. Is it functional? Is another thing.
When we were small, it was 999. Or was it 666? I can't remember. No, the one that use that, they used 666. I think it was 999. You call and it's like a central number. Once you call it,
like the 911.
911, yeah. We have 999. Once you call it, it just goes automatic. Whether you have credit on your phone or not, I'm not sure we have that. You call the neighborhood police people, they say they don't have fuel in their van and they can't come. It's late. In fact, there was even a time when they said police that they said they've closed for the night. They've closed for the day. That even they were hiring vigilantes to look at, to secure the police station. So these are the problems, Moses. I think there must be a way in which individual citizens should be able to defend themselves.
All right.
Believe me that if individuals are sufficiently equipped to ward off aggressors, then the armed robber will think twice. The kidnapper wants to come to your house to think twice. Any invader will first of all, and I mean, it could even be on the doorpost and say, we are this is a secure home or something. It's right. to show that you can't enter forcefully. If you did, okay. You know, there could be consequences.
Okay, now this is it's interesting that this is coming up now. You do remember that last year, sometime in September, when the governor of Ondo State, Rotimi Akeredolu, was clamoring that Amotekun be armed to defend themselves against the insurgents of headers that had guns, headers that were perpetrating evil, or, those tagged Fulani headsmen, the violent ones and all of that. The president at the time, Buhari, did say that, that the governors had no right to procure weapons. What do you, going back now, seeing that this is coming up now, can you help me marry the two? Let's juxtapose them. Then the president saying you have no right to acquire guns to protect yourself. Now lawmakers are saying, look, people need weapons to protect themselves. Please.
Whatever the president said then, we must state the clear fact that governors have a duty. Because it's one thing to say you don't have the right. Then what is the solution in what you're saying? So if President Buhari couldn't provide a solution 8 years in office to the challenge of insecurity, and the Amotekun thing I think came in his second term, I don't think he had the moral authority to say what he said. He didn't have it because people were being killed and the president had no solution whatsoever. If he had a solution, the governors wouldn't have been thinking of Amotekun.
Okay, let me take an excerpt from a paper, the Guardian newspaper actually. This one released September 2022. I'm just going to take this part. It says the presidency warned governors against the decision to authorize the procurement of automatic weapons for their security outfits, declaring that Katsina State, which had often been cited by Akeredolu, has not been given approval to issue automatic weapons to its vigilantes. Now, Cyril, at that time, like times before that and times after that, insecurity has been alarming. It has gotten to a point where bandits, as they are now called, ransack a state, a local government, and they compel the farmers there to pay levies. Now, Akeredolu fighting, putting forth the reason why Amotekun should be armed to defend itself. But then the president saying, look, no, you don't have a right to do so. You don't have a right to arm Amotekun. And we also know that we don't have enough policemen, actually. It's been one policeman to maybe 200 Nigerians. This is bringing us back to the issue of state policing. Now, what should be done differently now? Should we now use vigilantes, local vigilantes, or should we start talking about employing actual policemen for states?
No, look, that's why I say vigilantes haven't always been the solution. Maybe in the early days that you hire them, they are effective, but in the end, they are not the solution. Vigilantes are not what you use in civilized societies. And Moses, before we came on air for this discussion, I thought that, like I said, insecurity is not the problem. Okay? It runs deeper than that. And I think all of these things became what they become, or began to become what they become, when Nigeria stopped somewhere. Moses, Nigeria stopped somewhere. It was either 64, 65, or 60. But I know Nigeria stopped somewhere. But the snowballing has been gradual. Now look at everything we're thinking. State police, vigilantes, increasing the number of police, or private security outfits that you can hire to secure estates, secure certain places. But I think every successfully secured society combines all of these elements anyway. But in our own case, why has gun ownership suddenly become like what we should suddenly do? What does it cost to even get a gun? What is the caliber of weapons owned by bandits and these people? And what sort of guns can we use to ward them off? These bandits are armed like soldiers. They are well trained. When you hear that bandits sacked a military base, as they've been doing. Boko Haram sacked a military barracks, sacked a military base. Let me explain how that happens. They don't just wake up and go and sack it. Sacking is a big word. It means they engage them, overwhelm them, overpowered them, and took the place. That's what it means. You don't take a military base that easily. It means, at the very least, they planted moles within the military, which means they have money and wherewithal to employ people that can go and spy on the military base. It means they did reconnaissance. You know the formation with. It means you're dealing with an army. You're not dealing with ragtag people. You're dealing with an army. It means that they did reconnaissance, recon, to check out the defense formation of that place and to know where the weak point or where the weak link is to attack. And then they now had the courage, determination, maybe training enough to be able to attack with precision and to overrun and overwhelm that military base. So we are not dealing with people that civilian guns or whatever can easily overpower. Okay, so what exactly can we do or should we be doing? Number one, it will take institutions to fight this thing. It's not just it will take institutions. So how equipped, how strong our institutions? That Zamfara has a governor. Today, Minister of State for Defense is Zamfara. This rep speaking is Zamfara. Then open Zamfara up along with the Northwest, Kaduna, Kano, Katsina, maybe Jigawa, Sokoto, okay, and most likely Kebbi. All these 7 states are in the Northwest. How is it that with these killings that have gone on for so long, the federal government, majority APC, no serious institutional reforms are taking place to say we need to deal with this matter? I dare say the way you deal with this security in the north cannot be the same you deal with it in the south and in the east, west, and even south, because these things have different tones and tenors with which they are manifesting. Bring it back to my question: how has anybody envisioned this country? Thought about Nigeria and thought of it as an egalitarian state or as a welfare state or as whatever, and thought of what exactly can be done to bring Nigeria, because Nigeria that becomes a good country must have been a Nigeria that developed from someone's mind first of all. America, you see today, they are very strong Republican principles. Why? Because they broke free from a monarchy. That's why the American president cannot influence the courts, cannot influence the judiciary, even if he can only appoint people of like minds. But he can never tell the courts what to do. He can never tell unlike China, the president knows his powers and he can't overstep it. Now let me play. Even his party members cannot necessarily just vote because it's a party issue. They are strongly independent and they vote based on convictions.
Now let me play the devil's advocate here now. And let's be a little more realistic with the situation of things. Our lawmakers are saying, let people be empowered to defend themselves. Now, whether or not the weapons that people will be licensed to carry may rival what the bandits or insurgents would have, that's a different ball game entirely. But don't you think that will curb incidences of bandits sneaking to a village at night and burning 100 houses, killing hundreds of people? Don't you think one way or the other, by the time they start coming, 1 or 2 persons might be able to, bring down a few of them, and then they would also have losses? Don't you think that is what the governors are trying to say?
Before you give guns to anybody, whether it's in Oyo or Imo or Benue or Borno, anywhere like that, I think the first thing you need to do, in Benue State, they told them, bring your weapons. They brought the weapons and gave to government. Then what happened? What followed was an attack. It means the government set the stage for that attack. And I think that in years to come, we need to revisit what happened there really.
Of course.
Now, so the question is, before you give guns to those who are now being killed, why don't you return the guns of those you took before and give, and at least do that one first? Government, you see, there is a way government does this, and people begin to hail and say, we know for a fact that something new is about to happen, has come to town. Without first, look, Wole was very right, and his professor was very right when he said, justice is the first condition of humanity. Anything that, look at now the subsidy problem, we were saying, I'm sorry to digress, the subsidy, I said, without justice for those who, against those who took subsidy money and went away with it, you cannot fix the subsidy problem. Are we not back there now? We're back there now. Without justice, you can't achieve anything meaningful. Return those guns to the people of Benue, return it to them. So that they will see and know that this government means well for Nigerians. Then, we can sit back and say, oh, everybody now, let's talk. When you do that, even the attackers will be put on notice and say, these people are different now. There's something about to happen.
What's the difference between returning guns and asking people, okay, you can go and buy and defend yourself?
No.
It's not the same thing.
Return to them is justice. With an apology. In any case, they've been killed.
Yeah.
Been killed. So in that case, it won't even be returned to them. Find out whether there was a connection between the guns that were taken and the killing that took place. If there was, get those who masterminded that crime against humanity, arrest them, put them on trial to serve as justice for those who are killed. Then you cannot begin to say, okay, we have looked at it and we feel that gun ownership is the way forward. All right, let's look at it. It can be everywhere. Those who are communities that are particularly affected by banditry in Borno, it's not just Zamfara. Well, of course, this law is for Nigeria, but like I said, it can be everywhere. So in Borno, in maybe Zamfara and all these other places, grant them access to guns. And then let's see. But it's not just access to guns. First of all, why is the police not able to cover those places? Why is the army not able to cover those places? The lawmaker even said that they should move the defense headquarters to the northwest. Why Moses? The problem is not insecurity.
What's the problem then?
We can call it any other name. The question is, why
what do you call it?
Why is the combination of Nigerian security architecture not able to deal with why are they not able to deal with them? No, clearly you are asking me what the problem is. It's a failure of the state.
Failure of the state.
It's the failure of the, when they say Nigeria is a failed state, it's a failure of the state. It's a failure of the state.
So who gets to answer for that now?
Well,
who should be held responsible?
You can't put that blame squarely on President Tinubu, President Buhari, or President Jonathan. Over the years, like I mentioned here, and I'm glad I said it before that, Nigeria stopped sometime. Either 64, 65, or 60, but we stopped somewhere. No, but of course, Nigeria stopped moving a long time ago. There's no need to pretend about it. Nigeria stopped a very long time ago. We'll be managing it. Now we are even having problems of motion. To even lift a leg is a problem now. The only industry that works is the industry of politics, Politics is the industry that's thriving. A country in which your youth, your able youth, would rather not be there. Would rather pack the bags and run away. And that is not enough to alarm you. What is alarming is that somebody brought the matter to the floor of the reps. The same government that when security agents said we suspect an attack is going to happen at the prisons. Report 1, report 2, report 3, report 4 to report 44. No preemptive action. Nobody said or did anything about it. I think you should begin to see where the problem is coming from. Insecurity is a mere symptom. The real problem, call it failure of state, failure of government, now the question is that failure deliberate or indeliberate? Well, I will leave the viewer to judge, but I can tell you for a fact that insecurity is far from the problem.
All right, so now we've talked about the problem. We've talked about the failure of states being the major, reason why things have become what they have become. In a few more minutes, we have 3 more minutes. In a few more minutes, what is the solution?
I will put it in a sentence because I believe when I make that sentence, it will help to cover the political, economic, and all the sides of it. Hand this government back to Nigerians. Hand the government back to Nigerians.
Without interference.
Then don't interfere. Hand the government, hand the country back to Nigerians. Look at the laws we had in 1963, 61, 62. In fact, the independent country and republic, it was the people made the decision for themselves. The people said, we are going to be a country. In 1999, the new constitution said, we the people, and Chief Rotimi Williams said, the constitution lied because Nigerians never sat together to make the law. It was a group called Constitution Debating Committee. Rufai and Nikitobi and some people sat together to write the constitution. Where has that ever happened? In fact, do you know that if people took this law to court, it will lose? Because the constitution is Decree 38 of 1998. This constitution is a decree. Where does that even ever happen? You see why Nigeria stopped moving at some point? In 78, we formed what we call Constituent Assembly. Was it 78 or 77? Constituent Assembly, where the people came together, about 50 people or so, nominees from religious groups, lawyers, they came together and wrote the 79 Constitution. By 1999, we didn't have patience for that anymore. What did we simply do? 5 or 7 people just came together and wrote the Constitution. So you see that over time, we've been losing value. I'm telling you, a group of 50 will be people who they can think, they can debate, they can check the two constitutions and see how we moved. They are basically the same, but look at the fact that when they say we the people, Nigerians can say, yes, my father was there, my uncle was there, my governor was there. But in 1999, they didn't even have the patience for that anymore. To tell you that something is fundamentally wrong with the state. Hand the government. Why wouldn't the Constitution, for example, have provision for referendum? Is government wiser than all of us? We didn't voted out of our number. The mere fact that Obasanjo came, did the reform conference 2005, Jonathan came, did his own reform conference, shows that the way the Senate and Reps are formed today cannot deliver democracy to Nigerians. It is clear. It is clear. So hand this government, this country back to Nigerians. Let them be the ones to decide their destiny, decide their fate, decide where they want to go. That is the only way to guarantee what to borrow for people. Anything other than that will be a continuation of the current morass we're in. And nobody knows where to get us in another 10 to 20 years.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Cyril Abako, for your take on the program. Well, that's it. Guns, the probability of Nigerians owning guns to defend themselves. As it is, Nigerians have been doing things for themselves. Nigerians power their businesses, power their houses. Nigerians have been fixing their roads. Nigerians have been basically doing everything that they pay taxes to government to do for them. And now lawmakers are talking about Nigerians defending themselves. Where does that leave Nigeria? This is a question that will linger for some time. Well, this is not the last time we'll talk about this. We'll come back and talk about this some other time. But in the meantime, we have to wrap up today's program. I must say a very big thank you to Cyril Abako, VOP in-house analyst. And I am Moses Humphrey on behalf of the team, and wishing you a beautiful time till Political Voice comes your way again. Bye for now.